Hi guys, this is Megan and welcome to another Tiny Tidy Tuesday. This is a special Tuesday in that it is the 1-year anniversary of Sunday Dawn starting the Tiny Tidy Tuesday team. As a special thing for this week, we have been given the opportunity to answer some questions and answers in regards to our journey. So thank you to Sunday Dawn for inviting me to join this collab. Thank you for all the lovely ladies for all the inspiration since I found it probably 6 months ago. I do believe I'm the newest member that's actually putting up videos for it, but I have been doing Tiny Tidies for several months now. And highly recommend that you check out the playlist. I will have it linked down below, as well as Sunday Dawn's channel. And I am just going to jump into these questions and answers. The cats woke me up for their first breakfast this morning and I couldn't get back to sleep. So I'm answering questions in the silence of morning, as it were. The cats are kind of loud at this time of day and I apparently sleep through it. So anyway, if you hear noise in the background or loud crashes, rest assured everybody's okay. They ran into a wall or a window or something. Question number 1. Why does the concept of tiny tidying work for you? In part, this probably does come down to chronic illness. I have something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a connective tissue disorder that also affects a lot of other stuff. So I'm sort of limited in how long I can work before either I run out of stamina, I am getting dizzy from standing in a certain position, or I'm just not stable and having trouble with like dislocations or that kind of thing. It does come with some energy issues and some of the sort of comorbidities that go with it also cause some problems. So tiny tidying, when I first started decluttering, I had found Fly Lady and she has a 15-minute thing. So I kind of fell into that. And oftentimes when you find me doing various tiny tidy tasks, it'll be at the top of the hour or the bottom of the hour, and I'll just set an alarm for like 5 or 10 minutes. Not that I'm not necessarily doing anything the rest of the time, but it'll be like a sitting down in a chair type of thing where I can get my feet up. Question number 2, how did you find the playlist? I really have no idea. It was probably through another channel I was watching, but I couldn't tell you which channel it was because several channels that I have watched have participated over time, and I'm not even sure all of them are still in it. But I don't know. At some point, I kind of shifted over, and Sunday also has some health issues and food issues that I related to. So it very quickly became a thing where I was pulling videos off of the playlist, even if I wasn't subscribed to people. So I don't know. What's your favorite color and why, or what feelings or memories does it bring up for you? So anymore, I don't really think I have a favorite color. I do have a signature color, which is a bright blue cerulean cyan type color. Very vibrant blue, sort of with a very small hint of green. I don't have a favorite color. I used to list like 6 colors when somebody asked me that, and I don't know why I liked any of those colors. I know one of them was black, and it was sort of just because it made other colors pop. So yeah, anyways. Any pets, names, details? Okay, so we do have 3, sort of. In this household, full-time are 2. One comes and goes with the kids. Our oldest pet right now is Charlie. He's a little over 10 years old. He is my vet calls him a brown tiger, but he's like the gray colors of tiger, but he has a brown undercoat. We got him because He was given to one of my nieces for a birthday, and then they had to move like 2 weeks later, and could not take a cat with because the place they were moving into temporarily had a bunch of dogs. So he came to us rather than going to the pound. And then 6 months later, they decided they did not want him back and told me to take him to the pound. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So that's how he came to be here. And we had already had Pinga at that point, several years. And she has since passed on. But yeah, so they had probably a good 9 years together. And then in May, my kid's dad wound up dog sitting for a coworker who was suddenly thrown into a situation where they needed to move, and they were struggling to find a living situation at all, and then much less one where they could take a husky with them. And it did wind up that they didn't find a place that they could take him with. So at that point, he had sort of adopted my son as his human. And so when they said they couldn't take him back, he was very happy to adopt him, almost without asking if it was okay, but it wound up being fine. I wasn't ready for another cat yet anyways, and he is very much my son's dog, but he also goes back and forth between households with him. LITTLEBIT, our other cat, still somewhat in the kitten time frame. She was born back in June and adopted us in early August. She was stalking me across the yard on a hot summer day. Teeny tiny. And as it turned out, she was about half the size she should have been for her age at that point. It was the beginning of August, and she was barely a pound. So we kind of got her some water and pushed her back towards where Mom, we thought, was. And it turned out that her mom had passed. Not that we knew this at the time, but a day or so later, when she peeked out from under my car looking like a drowned rat after a rainstorm, we picked her up and dried her off and then wound up getting her to the vet. So anyway, that's how LITTLEBIT came to be with us. And she has definitely added yet another level of energy to the household. Because if you don't know huskies, they are quite energetic as well. But LITTLEBIT has been interesting, to say the least. It had been a long time since we had a kitten, and she has sort of aged Charlie backwards. He had been a grumpy old man, and he is much more playful now. What are your favorite places to visit or vacation? I don't really have any. When we lived in Tennessee growing up, we always vacationed to Indiana, and after we moved to Indiana, I always vacationed to Tennessee. There were a few exceptions, like when we lived in Tennessee, we were on a 3-year rotation with Colorado and Indiana for Christmases and staying home. I know we went to Florida at least once, and I think we went up to Wyoming or something. I don't really remember a lot of that. After I had the kids, that kind of drastically reduced the amount of time I was going to Tennessee. I flew out to Jersey once or twice. So I don't really have a favorite place. I would like to go a few more places, but I'm also very much a homebody. Very much a homebody. How do your family and friends feel about your YouTube channel? Well, I haven't really hidden my YouTube channel from my family and friends. Over the course of time, Friends has been one of those things where, I don't know, like when I had the kids, like a lot of friends weren't really at that stage of life at the time. So we kind of drifted and occasionally keep in touch. But that was well before YouTube. And since the shutdown, I haven't really, like, the work friends I had, like, we've kind of lost touch as well, because I didn't wind up going back to where I was at, you know? So as far as how do family and friends feel about my YouTube channel, most of my friends are on YouTube, so they're perfectly fine with it. Some probably wondering why I'm not posting much anymore. Family, I know my brother knows. I don't know that he's ever watched a video, nor would I really want him to. I really don't know. I think some of them think it's weird, but then some of them think it's weird that I do so much on the computer and internet anyway. Are you an introvert or extrovert? Is it shocking to them that you have a channel, or are they like, oh yeah, that sounds like something you do? I'm definitely an introvert, although some people would probably think I'm an extrovert, and in some rare situations, I would say maybe I'm an ambivert, but those would be very unusual situations. So yeah, overall, I'm definitely an introvert and definitely a homebody at that. So like, even being away from home, but on my own, I think would probably be draining to me energy-wise. In a lot of ways, I'm very tied to the ground and the garden and stuff. As far as does it shock them that I have a channel, I think they understand when I explain why I started my channel to begin with. And when I say I started my main channel, which was to share information I found about histamine intolerance, because when I started looking, I didn't find any, or at least not any good information. I think when I explain that, it makes a lot more sense to them. Okay, next question. Give us a quick overview of your homemaking or decluttering journey over the years and how it has evolved. Talk about a loaded question, Sunday. Okay. So homemaking, I moved out of my parents' house when I found out I was pregnant with my son and moved into an already established household. And I had the skills to do the different chores that need done in a household. Like I knew how to do laundry. I knew how to dust. I did not have the skills to put it all together in a cohesive system to make a household run. And I definitely didn't have the financial skills needed to run a house, but at the same time, in some ways, they were better than what I walked into. So I did much better on that aspect of homemaking than on the stuff side of things. As far as my decluttering journey went, it started actually a year or so after I moved out of my kid's dad's house. We split up during my second pregnancy, and I moved out, and between that house, things I had in storage, and stuff at my parents' house, pretty well furnished an entire house, and my parents bought me a new bed. So needless to say, you can imagine what the house I was moving out of looked like, because I didn't know how to keep up with it, and a lot of the time I was working towards the end. And I'd also dealt with postpartum depression as well. So like there was a lot of stuff going on. And of course, when I moved out, I also had some depression issues, both just hormonally because I was pregnant and major life changes and adjusting to being a single mom and stuff. And so the stuff just sort of crept in, and it crept in quickly. So then I know it was like July-ish. So my daughter was probably like 14, 15 months old when I started decluttering. I found Fly Lady, and I was going to get my house in order, and I was on the chat rooms or forums or whatever they were called at the time, getting the emails and trying to make it all work, and it was just so overwhelming. So I would do really well for a little while, and then backslide, do really well for a little while, and then backslide. I eventually sort of figured out I had anxiety issues because I had a major panic attack. Right around the time I was graduating. Okay, I told you guys you might hear crashes. I was well on the hoarder scale by the point I was finding out I had anxiety issues. Some of them being that, like, too much space was a problem. So I had kind of over the years let stuff help me cocoon, and that would kind of make me feel more safe and secure. And then when my mental health was doing well, rooms would open back up, I'd be able to declutter and things would go better until they weren't. And so that kind of cycle just went until I was aware of it. Once I became aware that space was an issue, I started painting walls dark. I started sort of moving in large furniture or arranging furniture in a way that it took up more space without being filled with stuff. So I was essentially shrinking my rooms without actually filling them with stuff, and that kind of got a foothold on progress. I sort of shifted at one point from focusing on decluttering stuff to making space. That was also a big help for me. And that would have been like the early teens, and that early teens as in years, not my early teens. And then I did try the KonMari method for a little bit. I had already at that point been working towards Project 333, sort of unsuccessfully. And then KonMari got my clothes under control. I'm not sure I made it quite down. I think I did make it to 33 for a brief period, and then basically my year-round wardrobe wound up about 40 pieces before I wound up in a uniform job. When I got a uniform job, I wound up down as low as like 4 or 5 pieces. But anyways, with KonMari, we got through clothes, books, and eventually I did get through paper that way, but it did not. Other than clothes, none of those categories really got to where they are now. That one was another one that was very overwhelming for me. And so, like, I would accumulate piles of categories and not be able to do anything with them because I was just paralyzed by the overwhelm. So that was another one that wasn't great. And so I kind of refocused again on the minimalism aspect. And, I'm not even really sure when, because it wasn't the beginning of 2020. I was diagnosed with histamine intolerance in fall of 2019. And I was just trying to get that under control and get rid of the hives, like between October and by the time the shutdown happened, I was pretty well, I thought, under control. But it was because of very strict routines and regimens involving my work schedule. So when I was suddenly not working, I took a complete tailspin. And my health was crap for most of the beginning of the middle of 2020, I guess you could say. Probably towards the fall, I had made the choice that I was not going to go back to work until we were further along in the pandemic. And if I was going to do that, I needed to actually do something instead of just sit around and worry about what was going to happen. Like, once I made that choice as to what was going to happen, it kind of freed me up mentally to, okay, what do I want to use my time for? My health was by that point a little bit better. And so I kind of like, well, I'm home. I should probably work on the house because, of course, it was driving me nuts too. And that's when I found like Dana K. White and Minimal Mom and some of those. And just sort of progressed through and eventually wound up on the Tiny Tidy Tuesday playlist. So yeah, that's kind of brings me up to where I'm at today. I've made a ton of progress in the last 2 years, and I haven't had the backsliding that I used to. Some of that's probably time and being home, but I don't think I would backslide to the I was at before if I went back to work right now. Okay, that wasn't a quick overview, I'm sure. Number 9, most embarrassing moment. I really couldn't tell you. Probably because I've just blocked them out, because I'm sure I have embarrassing moments on a regular basis. I just can't think of any. Okay, so number 10, 3 things you'd bring to a deserted island. Nothing useful like a boat or food or lighter. Bring to a deserted island. Well, my phone. I have come to the determination that I am addicted to a phone for non-phone purposes. I would probably say seeds, but that would probably be considered useful. Sunday, I am a very functionalist person. Telling me something can't be useful is, what would I bring at that point? I don't know. I'm very much in the sort of, if it's useful, what is the quote? If you don't know something to be useful or beautiful, you don't need to have it or something. I'll find the quote and put it up on the screen. I was going to say, in case I didn't mention it at the beginning of this, I am recording this in the middle of the night. It's probably not the middle of the night because I see the light starting to come in through the windows. But the kids woke me up. The kids being the fur baby kids, woke me up for first breakfast. And I couldn't get back to sleep. So I'm going to end this. And when I get up, I'll film my Tiny Tidy Tuesday, I think. But have a wonderful day. Congratulations to a year of Tiny Tidy Tuesdays Sunday. And all the ladies that have been participating longer than me, have a great day.